Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Eunice.
Sao đang à? Không mà đang.
Eunice, thank you. Let me bring it in. Can start it somewhere here. Yes, so these ones were the takeaway questions, and I shared them in our WhatsApp. If it did not reach somewhere, maybe if it did not reach you, we can only be sorry that it did not reach you. But I want to ask had reached us. So on our takeaway question 1, again, each question had 25 marks awarded to it. Discuss 5 academic related problems that EBD, that emotional behavioral difficulties, learners may exhibit in the classroom. We'll also look at 5 principles of behavior management. Discuss factors that may affect classroom management. And finally, we look at the procedures of identifying and screening behavior. So I want us in a short while to look at the very first question, 5 academic related problems that EBD learners may exhibit in the classroom. Yes? Academic related problems that EBD learners may exhibit in the classroom. Yes? Yes, Firdema. Firdema?
Avoidance of group participation.
Yes, avoidance of group participation. Eunice is saying emotional outburst, distress, anxiety, lack of concentration, fall behind classwork, among others. Oh, this is Judy. They also fail to complete the given work. This is from 0788. Any other person, please? Their work is always disorganized.
Have they said failure?
Yes.
Failure?
You can.
Truancy? And maybe attention deficit with hyperactivity.
Yeah, yes. Is this Edwin? There was a hand. Okay, the hand has been withdrawn. So let's carry on. Academic related attention deficit, inability to take instructions. They pretend to be sick. That is the school truancy, among others. Now you also need to know that such learners may be resistant to academic tasks. The avoidance of group participation, as somebody has mentioned, truancy. They may also this may also lead to failure. They may also be very hyperactive. These learners may also be very hyperactive, faking sicknesses. They may also have disruptive behavior in class. They may also not complete academic tasks that they have been given in the class. Now let's look at question 2. In question 2, explain 5 principles of behavior management. Principles of behavior management. 5 of them. What are 5 principles of behavior management? Yes? Did we really look at this takeaway? Yes, James.
Behavior
Yes,
is controlled by its consequences. Behavior is controlled
by its consequences. The consequences that are attached to a given behavior controls that behavior. Behavior can be strengthened by reinforcement. This is from Christine Moindi. Thank you. Firdema?
Behavior is weakened by punishment.
Behavior is weakened by punishment, and that can be either positive or negative. Corretti?
Behavior should be consistent and immediately follow the behavior meant to reinforce. Should be consistent. Si leo unachapa kesho unamwambia uko sawa, and it is the same behavior. So it should be consistent and immediate.
Yes, it must be immediate. The consequences must immediately follow the behavior once it has been portrayed. Behavior is weakened or strengthened by modeling. Then behavior can also be weakened by withdrawal of a token. Yes, Beauty.
Okay, another one is consequences must consistently follow the behavior.
Yes, consequences must consistently follow the behavior. That was on our question 2. We are not going to take much time. Actually, the behavior can be weakened by punishment. Yes, as we mentioned. So thank you for that, Fancy. Let's look at the 3rd question. Let's look at the 3rd question. That is on explain 5 procedures. Sorry, discuss 5 factors that may affect classroom management. Factors that may affect classroom management. Yes.
Lighting of the classroom.
Lighting of the classroom. Lighting of the classroom.
Sitting arrangement.
Lighting of the classroom, the spacing, the curriculum, big numbers, teacher learner ratio, okay, the seating arrangements. Okay. Any other apart from the ones that have been written?
Pascal,
Yes.
Hello. Okay, I'm asking about a question on maybe the content to be delivered. Maybe if the lesson is the nature of the topic, maybe it requires group discussion, something of that sort. Does that affect classroom management?
Class, what's your response on that?
Na class organization.
Yes. Somebody responding?
Not it.
I'm waiting to hear a response whether that can affect.
Ni kama hawako communicate.
No response. Yes, let me see in the chat box. Kamadi, mute, Kamadi. Environment friendly to suit all learners. Somebody is talking about inadequate resources. There is a question that has been asked. Maybe, Madam, kindly repeat it so that we get it once again, please.
I was asking if the topic or the content to be taught affects classroom management.
Thank you. Class, the question is very clear. Does the content to be taught affect the classroom management? Yes, does it?
Hello. Can
Yes.
it be, I was saying.
Yes.
Content, can it be, hello? Content be under, can it be classified under rigid curriculum, which we have already said? According to me, I think it will fall under rigid curriculum.
Okay, thank you, James.
Yes, I think the content will affect in the sense that if, for example, you are teaching a topic that requires you to regroup the learners, especially if it's science, you want them to perform an experiment or to be in groups, definitely it will affect the manner in which you're going to manage the class.
Thank you. So that is the manner in which you are going to arrange the learners in the classroom is going to matter a lot. It's going to affect the classroom management and such like. We are not going to take too much time there. Let's look at the last question there. Explain 5 procedures of identifying and screening behavior. Procedures of identifying and screening behavior. Before that, let's look at what is screening. What is screening? Yes. What is screening?
Assessing. Is it not assessing?
Yes, James.
I think screening is basically carrying out a test in order to ascertain the existence of a disability or special need.
If you don't mind, James, you can come up again kindly.
Screening is a form of testing mainly to confirm the existence of a disability or special needs.
Thank you very much. Now, what are the procedures of identifying and screening behavior? What are the procedures of identifying and screening behavior?
Hello.
Yes.
And that, I think there are many.
Carry on.
I think there are many. Can we start with the functional analysis?
Functional analysis.
Functional analysis, I
Thank
think
you.
that's one of them.
And how is it done?
The attempt is to relate events occurring before, during, and after behavior occurs. So it looks at the past, the present, and after that, so that now they can come with a conclusion on the screening matter of it.
Very right. So in functional analysis, we look at the events or the occurrences before, during, and after the behavior has been exhibited. So
Yes.
the first one is functional analysis. The second one,
Projective test.
projective test. Yes, tell us about it.
This is the method that you use to gain more information about the learner's inner life in a way that the learner may not even understand that he or she is giving the information about his or her own life. So unaweza ambia mtoto chora kitu fulani ndio uone feelings zake toka kwa hiyo kitu, attitude yake, their feelings and thought ni gani.
Right. That is projective test. The learner's attention is directed towards a given object, and finally, the learner's attention is directed to self. The learner was to draw a cow. After drawing the cow, then the learner is asked to draw himself or a family member. So that is the second one. The third one,
My friend.
yes.
Ms. Pascal.
Yes.
Mr. Pascal, while you are there, I want you to tell me this on that matter. Hello?
We are getting you, Korikimoi. Carry on.
Thank you. Kuna question nilikuwa nimepata hapa kwa mtihani. Describe the following projective tests for screening learners with the emotional and behavioral difficulty.
Akorikimoi. Akorikimoi. Oh, you are now breaking. See, here. Akorikimoi, you are breaking.
Systematic approach test. Omantu house 3-person test. Yes, my Rafiki.
No, what I'm saying. You are breaking, so we are kindly requesting uandike kwa chat box so that we can assist from there, please.
Okay. Okay.
Let's carry on. So we have talked about two. We have talked about functional analysis, and we have also talked about projective tests. Any other?
Pascal?
There is complete silence there.
Self-report.
Yes.
Self-report.
Self-report. Tell us about it, please.
Okay, when you're asking maybe asking the learner to some questions about self, or asking the learner to write something about himself, the learner is going to express the learner is going to express himself from there. So you as a teacher, you are going to now identify that problem. Am I clear?
Right, the self-report.
I'm not getting, I've not understood Purity.
I'm saying, Agada, for example, when you are giving the learner to write a composition about myself, now this learner is going to express herself through writing. So from the write-up, you as a teacher now you're going to identify, oh, now there's a problem here, because the learner is being genuine on what he or she is writing about. Umepotea. Is that
okay?
Purity.
Yes.
Ninakaribia kuelewa lakini ni sawa.
When akukujia inbox.
Sawa.
Academic related problems that EBD learners may exhibit. Na nilitupa kitabu mbali.
Wewe mbona ulitupa kitabu? Salome, ulitupa kitabu na una nini hivyo? Utatafutiwa Mboto akuweke viboko viwili hapo. Mboto. Akorikimoi, we are waiting for you. Umeandika? Oh, you are writing. Ama inaenda headquarters ndio ikuje hapa.
Rafiki. Naandikia nataka niandike kwa chatbox.
Yes, kwa chatbox.
Nataka niandike kwa chatbox eh?
Yes, rafiki.
Kwa mti.
Ndio ningesema tu rahisi. Acha nisome. Acha nisome bwana. Wanaandika kwa mti.
You are breaking. We will not get you.
You will not get me when I read.
You are breaking.
Unajua mimi nashika mkono mwingine kwa miti.
Okay, you are breaking. So we have talked about the projective test. We have talked about the self-report. And actually, when we talk about the self-report, in this area now you can ask the learner to write about himself. Remember, there is a difference between the projective test and the self-report. Since in the projective test, you're trying to gain information about the learner's inner life by asking the child maybe to draw himself, to draw members of the family. So when you see one of the family members is drawn without the head, maybe the dad is not having the head, simply because the mom has been saying to the child, unajua baba yako hana kichwa. So the child alludes to that, kwamba daddy hana kichwa na anachora hivyo. So you are trying to gain the inner self of the child in a very wise way, but that is projective. When you come to the self-report, the child writes, put it down in writing about himself. You know, when one of the very difficult things to write is about yourself. But for a child, the child may find it very easy to write. The child will write about what he likes, what he dislikes, when he goes to church, what happens there, you know, things like that. So we talked about 4 so far, 3, functional analysis, projective test, self-report, or somebody also wrote the screening tests, where now you examine a group of people, including the parents, about the child. You ask them, you can interview them so that you can gather information about the child. And finally, we are having the so-called yes, James.
Can we talk about the psychometric assessment? Psychometric
Yes,
assessment.
the sociometric assessment.
Sorry, sociometric, yeah. Where
Yes.
maybe the learner, you try to find out the interpersonal relationship from the learner with the peers. Maybe you can ask them to
Yes.
to name their friends or the person they would wish to play with during break time. And through that, you may be able to gather one of the children. There may be one child whom none of the others would want to play with. And probably that will definitely give you a lead into a problem that learner may be having. Sociometric assessment.
James, that is very true. Very true. You are trying to examine the interpersonal relationship between a specific learner and the other learners. I think we have talked about the projective test, which is gaining information about a child's inner life by asking a child to draw self or family members. There is a question that has been posted in the chat box by Akori Kimoi. Describe the following projective test, which we have talked about. Thematic. This is supposed to be thematic perception test. Thematic perception test. And the other one is supposed to be house tree person test. So it needs the description of the two, thematic perception test and house tree person test. Somebody who wants to try?
Functional analysis, self-report, biometric test.
Not biometric, Mary. Sociometric assessment, not biometric, sociometric assessment. Sociometric. Let me write sociometric so that we don't get it wrong. Sociometric assessment. Sociometric. That is the sociometric assessment test, so that we get it right. Akori Kimoy, I think we can look at that question later, please, if you don't mind.
Okay. I will not mind.
All right. So we have talked about the functional analysis. We have talked about the screening test. We have talked about the projective test. We have also talked about the self-report, and we have also talked about sociometric assessment. Let's carry on. I can see time is moving. I want us to carry on. So yes,
Oscar,
yes.
what does this show? Sociometric assessment. What does it entail? Kindly elaborate on that.
Okay. We have said that sociometric assessment, when you are using the sociometric assessment as a procedure of identifying and screening behavior, you are going to you are focusing on the interpersonal relationship between the child and other learners. So that means it is a screening test that provides information on the opinions and attitudes of other pupils towards another pupil. So like James mentioned, that you may try to get close to the child, and you ask the child some questions that during break time, who will you want to play with? If I give you two sweets, who will you share with? So, you know, the one that the child is mentioning, those that the child will be mentioning are the very close friends. So now, instead of asking the child questions about himself, you now ask the questions about that particular child from the friends, this is one of the methods or the procedures that the office of the DCI is also using. There are those police officers or those that are serving in the army, but they work as undercover officers, where if they want information about, for example, Edwin, then he look for a very close friend or those people who know Edwin, and he creates a very good rapport with them. He looks at what Edwin's friends likes. So if there are people who likes taking mutugo, there are people who likes drinking changa, so he will create a rapport and put them into changa well, buys for them, so that when he begins to examine them about Edwin, they will not, they will not kind of hide some of the information, but they will speak everything to the person as he collects the data. So when you talk about sociometric, you are now asking the information about this specific child, but not from the child. You are using the friends so that you get the information about the particular child that we are talking about.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so yesterday we looked at the two questions. We looked at what is a visual teaching aid. We also looked at ways a teacher will make text-based materials accessible to learners with visual impairment. We also looked at ways of enriching. Did we look at part C really? No. So explain 5 ways of enriching learning materials in order to accommodate the GT. So how can you enrich learning materials? Remember, the question is very specific. Learning materials in order to accommodate the gifted and talented. Yes?
The GT.
Na hii question about the GT imerudiwa sana. Salome.
By adding other learning areas which are not in the regular curriculum, like the brailles and so others.
Adding other learning areas which are not in the curriculum, like the braille.
Ask a lot of providing other materials like maybe the cloth.
Yes.
Come on, provide other materials like the cloth. Kama unafunza SST, about from mambo ya text tu, una provide cloth.
Yes, so we say provision of exploration materials, materials that they can explore. Thank you.
What of if you take them out for excursion? Will you enrich the learning material?
Yes.
Taking them out for an excursion, umeshawafunza kwa darasa, then wapeleke nje pia waangalie about the environment, maybe zile vitu ambao ulifunza kwa darasa wanaweza isoma sana pia nje.
What do you think, class? Because this question is asking on learning materials, how they can be enriched.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we can also introduce these ICT gadgets. For instance, you are teaching writing. After the GT learner has finished writing, maybe they have written very fast than the others. You can tell them now to type their work in a computer. So you have made him or her busy to accommodate him or her.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, Salome?
You can use as many instructional materials as possible during the lesson time.
As many learning materials as possible during the learning time. So somebody is saying you also invite guests to do professional talks. Let's carry on.
Pascal,
Yes.
Niko na swali.
Tukisoma module 04 hata vile tumetoka juzi shule, mimi niliona madam alidiscuss exploratory resources, akadiscuss enrichment resources, na ingine hapo ilikuwa mara 3 ya GT. So which one are they, the exploratory resources? Are they the enrichment? Ilikuwa 3 categories of resources.
Haya, guys, a question. Kuna mwingine alikuwa na swali. Who was that?
Mimi.
Yes.
I've heard of addition of subjects like brain. Ulikuwa na jibu kama hilo?
Yes, from one of us.
Yeah, is that an enrichment of curriculum ama learning material?
Swali ndilo hilo. Class, where do we put that? Enrichment of the curriculum or enrichment of learning materials?
Kwani curriculum ni nini?
Techno, your hand was up. Yes, you can respond.
I think that is under enrichment of
we talk about.
Carry on.
Yes, I think when you talk about the braille and the others, what my colleague has just said, we'll be going out of this question because the question is strictly asking about the GT. Yeah, that's my take.
The Techno was also responding.
I was saying.
Yes.
I think that one is under enrichment of curriculum.
Okay. Right. I also think that that answer should fall under the curriculum enrichment. It should fall under the curriculum enrichment instead of the materials. But now you who is this? Corretti is saying curriculum is all that is planned to enable the learner to acquire. Yes, Corretti.
Pascal, nilikuwa nimeuliza ile swali. Hii swali inataka tuseme mambo ya exploratory resources ama enrichment resources.
Can you differentiate the two first? Ndio tukuelewe zaidi.
Nitapeana example. Kama hii ya exploratory resources ni mambo kama ya atlas, mambo ya encyclopedias from the library. Hiyo ni ya exploratory resources. Alafu sasa kama hii ya enrichment unawapeleka for excursion, field trips hizo. Unaweza waitia ule successful professionals ambao wamesha succeed pia wakuja waongeleshe. That's now enrichment. So sijui hii nini inasema nini? Enrichment ama sijaelewa, hapo ndo tabu iko.
This one is talking about enriching. This is very specific. Enrichment. Julie.
Pascal, me, I think the question here, the main points are enriching learning material to accommodate the GT learners, gifted and talented. So my thinking is to making the learning material better for the GT learners. So I think the question touches both enriching and the learning material. I stand to be corrected.
The GT and the learning material, all right. Flo, the question is there. Question number 4C. Yes, Beatrice.
Just as one of our sisters there said, under educational resources that support GT, they are categorized into three: the exploratory ones, enrichment ones, and then now materials for projects. So under enrichment, we have points there: special guests to give professional talks. Somebody talks of excursions to places of interest, that is, e.g. trips, challenging games, novels, magazines. And I rest my case there.
Ungetusomeako zote.
Madam mwenye amesoma sawa, madam. At least umenikumbusha ya mwisho sasa.
Nisome zote.
Teacher.
Eh.
So what are we supposed to do?
Yes.
Tunachanganya yote.
The question was specific on enrichment resources.
Sasa tunapeana zile za enrichment.
The answers that we are supposed to give should be under enrichment of resources, because from the question it was specific on enrichment.
Hiyo ndio tatizo yangu nimekuwa nikiuliza sana.
So now, before, as we are going through this, it's also in order that we also touch other areas, the exploratory and maybe materials for projects, so that we are now done with this once and for all.
Silence means sorted.
Pascal, I think her points are much clear. Yeah. I think they are much clear na pia they can support itself kulingana na question hapo kwa enrichment.
Pascal.
Yes.
I think here we are talking about inclusive education. And these learning materials that we are using in the inclusive class, how are we going to make them better so that they can cater for learners who are GT? I think that's the question. Am I right?
Yes,
Yeah.
you have got you well. So the question has been bigger. It has become.
So Pascal, if I may explain a bit, I had her mentioning about puzzles and games.
Yes.
Yeah. For just a few to mention. Now, if I can explain the points, I'll say, like, for example, where I teach, these materials can be used for different learners. You see, as much as it really doesn't have to be the learner who is gifted and talented, but then with the puzzles, when the learners interact with them, they get to understand more. So I'm thinking her points are much clearer if she would come up again for those who really wish to. I don't know where we are contradicting though. Pascal, why are you quiet? Are you in class?
I'm there.
I have an idea, Pascal.
Yes.
Maybe if we could list down the learning materials we can use in an inclusive lesson, and then we see how we can now make them better for the learners who are GT.
Yeah.
I think we are just required to give examples of those learning materials which we can enrich, and then one by one we will have gotten the points and the marks will require to measure beba. So me it's only big deal hapo. We can just name for instance require to meongea kuhusu the use of ICT gadgets. Maybe for example you're teaching English, then wameandika writing. You can now give the learners a tablet or a laptop. Now let them type because they have done their work very fast. Let them now type their work in the computer, and that will make them busy. That's one.
Thank you, sir.
Pascal.
Yes.
Pascal.
Yes, Edwin.
Saa ni mbaya bwana. Umeona tumerudi tuko watu 68 saizi from 82. Na nikuulize Pascal.
Yes.
Injili imehubiriwa, watu wameokoka.
Ogada si ulale.
Sawa, wacha nimalize alafu nitalala. Watu wameokoka Pascal. Daktari.
Let me get to...
Habari yako? Habari yako daktari? Nimefurahia kusikia sauti yako.
Ogada. Na sioni jina yangu.
Jina yako ndi inaandikwa tu saa hizi.
Hata mimi sioni yangu.
Pascal si Pascal si unaona? Hata mimi sioni yangu.
Sioni yangu.
Akori kimoja yako. Second please.
Unaweka hiyo page 2.
Page 2.
Ya ndio hiyo. Pascal hata mimi
daktari hapo.
Pascal sioni. Daktari. Daktari leo umejaribu sana.
Ogada.
My friend, hiyo ndio kitu nilikuwa nasoma jana. Sijui ni okay, wacha ninyamaze.
Ogada.
Yes.
Ni nini hiyo inaandikwa?
Ni majina zinaandikwa.
Sasa na research tunaendeleaje?
Wapi? Ni field demo. Ni waandika mazito ba.
We, usiwe wa Pascal.
Sielewi mimi, sielewi.
Mambo na